My mom threatened if you don't give your sister half the lake house, you're dead to this family. I didn't raise my voice, just calmly replied, I guess losing some greedy relatives won't hurt. I never thought money could instantly vaporize a family, but looking back, the rot was always there. It just took my grandfather's death to pull back the curtain. 6 months ago, my grandfather Arthur Harrington passed away. He was an absolute titan of a man. He built his commercial construction business from literally nothing but a rusted toolbox and an unrelenting work ethic. He was a man of calloused hands, smelling perpetually of fresh pine sawdust, strong black coffee, and old motor oil. He taught me everything I know about integrity, showing up on time, and doing the job right, even when no one is watching. When I was just 15 years old, instead of letting me sleep in and play video games, he started dragging me out of bed at 5 a.m. to take me to his active job sites every single summer. He taught me the trade from the ground up, sweeping floors, carrying lumber framing walls, and eventually managing crews. By the time I turned 18, I was working full-time for his company while grinding through community college business classes at night. I didn't have a traditional college experience. I had early morning sore muscles and the quiet pride of building a life with my own 2 hands. My younger sister Chloe, who is now 26, took an entirely different path. Our mother Brenda, 55, always treated Chloe like a fragile piece of porcelain that needed to be protected from the harsh realities of the world. Chloe went to an outrageously expensive private university out of state. My parents took out massive loans to facilitate this, and Chloe decided to study art history. She spent her college summers backpacking through Europe with her wealthy sorority friends, finding herself in Parisian cafes and Italian vineyards. She visited Grandpa Arthur maybe twice a year, and miraculously, those visits always perfectly aligned with holidays, birthdays, or the start of a new semester when she needed a little financial boost. I am not judging her choices, or at least I tried not to for a very long time. We were just fundamentally different people living in entirely different realities. The bomb dropped when Grandpa's will was formally read in his attorney's mahogany-lined office. Grandpa left me his lake house in Maine. Now you need to understand, this isn't just a dilapidated fishing shack. It is a stunning, sprawling 4-bedroom custom-built timber cabin sitting on 10 pristine acres of dense forest with exclusive private, deep-water lake access. It was his masterpiece, worth approximately $900,000 in the current market. To Chloe, he left $60,000 in liquid cash and his collection of vintage restored watches that were appraised at roughly $35,000. The entire remainder of his substantial estate was systematically divided among various local charities and trade school scholarship funds he had supported throughout his life. The will included a sealed, handwritten letter explaining his precise reasoning. For me, he wrote page after page about our shared memories of that lake house. He wrote about teaching me to fish off the very dock we spent an entire summer rebuilding together when I was 16. He wrote about my first clumsy attempts at carpentry on the back porch. His exact words were, I want this property to stay firmly in the hands of someone who understands its true bleeding value beyond a dollar sign. A house is just wood and stone until you pour your sweat into it. Liam knows the sweat. For Chloe, his letter was much shorter but still kind. He mentioned being proud of her artistic passions and explicitly stated he hoped the $60,000 cash injection would help her finally establish her career and wipe out some of her debts. My mother Brenda went absolutely nuclear. She didn't just disagree, she launched a crusade. She started calling me 4, sometimes 5 times a day, her voice shrill and demanding, insisting that generational family wealth must inherently benefit all children equally, completely, regardless of what the person who actually earned the money intended. She aggressively argued that Grandpa Arthur was a toxic, old-fashioned misogynist who played favorites simply because I am male and chose to work in the dirt and mud, like him. She demanded, not asked, demanded that I immediately list the Maine lake house for sale and split the $900,000 proceeds right down the middle with Chloe. Here is where my initial guilt and conflict came in. I genuinely loved my sister. Despite our massive differences, we had always maintained a close, if superficial, relationship. Chloe herself hadn't directly screamed at me for the money yet, but she had started making extremely passive-aggressive, calculated comments. She'd sigh loudly at family dinners, mentioning how incredibly lucky I was and how a massive cash windfall from the house could literally solve every single problem in her life. She is currently drowning in about $85,000 of combined student loans and high-interest credit card debt from her lifestyle. My mother then decided to weaponize the extended family. At a tense Sunday dinner, my aunt pointed her fork at me and called me a selfish, greedy opportunist. My uncle loudly proclaimed I was spitting on traditional family values. They created an echo chamber, all aggressively chanting that Grandpa would have wanted us to take care of each other and that keeping the entire property made me a monster. But the absolute truth is, I don't want to sell it, period. Beyond the immense, crushing, sentimental value, my wife Maya and I have been desperately trying to plan for our future. We want to start a family. We dream of our future children spending their humid July afternoons jumping off that exact same dock, just like I did. Currently, Maya and I live in a cramped, noisy two-bedroom apartment in New York City. This main property represents a future, a sanctuary, that we could never, ever afford to purchase on our own. My mother's latest shifting argument is that I already have a highly stable, lucrative career. I successfully run my own mid-sized commercial construction firm now. Meanwhile, Chloe is 26 and still struggling to find her true path. She works a meager 15 hours a week at a boutique art gallery and occasionally writes freelance blog posts that pay pennies. Brenda says it is my biological duty as the older, successful brother to even out the scales of the universe. I desperately tried to offer olive branches. I told Chloe she could use the lake house absolutely whenever she wanted for free vacations. I offered to personally pay for her flights up there. I told her she could have her future wedding on the property entirely free of charge. I even offered to dip into my own personal savings to help her aggressively tackle the high-interest portion of her credit card debt, but Brenda shut it down. She told me my offers were insulting crumbs. She formally demanded I either sell the property and give Chloe $450,000, or I personally take out a massive mortgage and buy Chloe out for $450,000 cash. Reddit, aita, for refusing to sell my grandfather's lake house, even though it undeniably created a massively unequal inheritance, split between my sister and me, eat it, to clarify some recurring questions in the comments. Yes, the will was absolutely 100% properly executed with impartial witnesses and a high-end estate lawyer. Grandpa Arthur was thoroughly evaluated by his primary care physician and a geriatric specialist just 2 months before finalizing the will specifically to prevent my mother from trying to challenge it. The deed to the house has already been legally fully transferred into my name. I hold the title insurance. I am not worried about the legal mechanics. I am just mourning the total destruction of my family. Update 1, posted 3 weeks later. Wells, everything escalated with terrifying speed. First, thank you to every single person who responded to my original post. The overwhelming consensus was that I was NTA and that I needed to honor my grandfather's dying wishes without guilt. I felt deeply validated reading your comments, but a naive, stupid part of me was still desperately hoping to find a peaceful, loving resolution with my family. That hope was violently murdered this past weekend. Let me back up. After my original post, I sat down and had a very long, seemingly emotional FaceTime conversation with Chloe. She cried a little, admitted she was deeply hurt by the disparity of the will, but explicitly stated she understood Grandpa's reasoning. We virtually hugged it out. I reiterated every single one of my previous offers: free vacations, the wedding venue, helping with the debt, and I even added that when she was finally ready to buy a starter condo, I would personally gift her $10,000 toward her down payment. She seemed genuinely, profoundly grateful. I thought the war was over. My mother, however, strapped on her armor and doubled down. She created a toxic family group chat literally titled Fairness for Chloe. She spent her days flooding this chat with passive-aggressive psychology articles about how inheritance inequality breeds resentment and destroys sibling bonds. I quietly muted the chat for my own sanity, but my wife Maya would occasionally check it and show me the most deranged highlights. Brenda was methodically building a narrative that I was a manipulative, calculating sociopath who had spent years slowly poisoning a sick old man's mind against his own sweet granddaughter. Then, last Thursday, Chloe called me. She was practically vibrating with excitement. Her boyfriend of 3 years, Ethan, had finally proposed. I was genuinely thrilled for her. I immediately reminded her of my offer. The main lake house was completely hers to use for the wedding. She squealed with joy, thanking me profusely, and immediately started rambling about planning a rustic, elegant lakeside summer wedding for next June. Fast forward to Sunday morning. Maya and I packed up our truck and drove the 5 hours up to the main lake house for a long weekend. The property desperately needed maintenance. Grandpa had been severely ill for the last 2 years of his life, and the harsh Maine winters had neglected the exterior. We pulled into the long gravel driveway and immediately hit the brakes. There were 3 unfamiliar cars parked on my property. One was Chloe's SUV, one was Ethan's sedan, and the third was a massive, pristine white Sprinter van with pink cursive lettering on the side. Evergreen elegance wedding planning. Feeling a knot of dread in my stomach, Maya and I walked through the front door. We found Chloe standing in the center of the main living room, gesturing wildly, while showing a woman with a clipboard around my house like she was the sole proprietor. They were actively discussing knocking down walls. If we just remove this entire load-bearing wall here, Chloe was saying, pointing to the exact wall Grandpa and I had spent 3 weeks framing and reinforcing. It will really open up the flow for the cocktail hour. And obviously, this dated, ugly kitchen has to be completely gutted before the caterers can use it. The wedding planner was nodding enthusiastically, snapping photos on her iPad, and taking laser measurements of my ceilings. I cleared my throat loudly. What exactly is happening here? Chloe spun around, beaming a completely fake plastic smile. Liam, perfect timing. I'm just getting a head start on planning the big day at Our Times Family Lake House. Notice the pronoun our. The wedding planner eagerly stepped forward, handing me a glossy business card. You must be the brother. I am so incredibly excited to transform this hidden, outdated gem into a premium luxury venue for Chloe. I felt my blood pressure spike. I pulled Chloe roughly into the hallway away from the planner. Chloe, what the hell are you doing? I offered to let you host your wedding here. I didn't offer to let you demolish my house. This is my Times property, not a shared family asset. Chloe's fake smile vanished, replaced by an eye roll so hard I thought she'd sprained something. Oh, come on, Liam, stop being so dramatic. We both know Mom is completely right. This place should legally belong to both of us. You owe me this. I'm just planning my wedding at my Times family's estate. That is the exact moment Maya tapped me on the shoulder and silently held up her phone. She was showing me Chloe's Instagram page. Chloe had posted a photo of the lake house 45 minutes prior. The caption read, "Can't wait to marry my soulmate at our family's sprawling historic lake property. Hashtag lake house wedding, hashtag family estate, hashtag generational wealth, hashtag blessed." I saw red. I turned to Chloe, my voice dangerously calm. Everyone needs to pack their things and leave my property right now. Chloe immediately burst into theatrical heaving sobs. She started screaming that I was an abusive monster ruining her engagement joy, that I was being a controlling tyrant over a house I didn't even pay a single dime for. Ethan came rushing out of the kitchen trying to play the mediator. He held his hands up saying, "Whoa, guys, let's just all calm down and discuss these renovations like a family." The wedding planner, realizing she had walked into a radioactive family war zone, looked absolutely mortified. She gathered her equipment, mumbled an apology, and practically sprinted to her van. Chloe, sobbing hysterically, pulled out her phone and called Brenda. Our mother lives over an hour away from the lake house, but she somehow pulled into the driveway in 45 minutes. She must have been doing 90 down the interstate. Brenda threw the front door open, marching in like a conquering general. She didn't even look at Maya. She immediately cornered me and started viciously berating me for emotionally traumatizing Chloe on what was supposed to be the most magical planning day of her life. The argument that followed was the ugliest thing I have ever experienced. Brenda screamed that Grandpa Arthur's brain was rotting from dementia when he wrote the will. Chloe shrieked that I had systematically isolated and manipulated a vulnerable dying old man just to steal her half of the money. Brenda threatened to hire a pit bull lawyer and contest the will to drag me through the mud. Chloe dropped to the floor sobbing that I was maliciously stealing her dream wedding venue just to watch her suffer. But the absolute breaking point, the moment the bridge burned forever, was when my mother pointed a manicured finger at my wife. "And you," Brenda spat at Maya, "you're nothing but a pathetic little gold digger who finally hit the jackpot manipulating my son into stealing from his own flesh and blood." I lost my mind. Maya grew up bouncing between abusive foster homes. She worked 3 grueling, back-breaking jobs simultaneously just to put herself through nursing school. She has never asked me for a single penny. In fact, when we got engaged, Maya Times was the one who insisted we sign a strict prenuptial agreement just to completely prove to my family that she wasn't marrying me for my business assets. I stepped between my mother and my wife, pointing at the open front door. "Get out. Get off my property right now, or I am calling the county sheriff and having you all arrested and charged with criminal trespassing." Chloe screamed that I couldn't legally ban her from her own rightful inheritance. Brenda told me, her voice dripping with venom, that I was dead to her unless I immediately signed over half the deed. They finally left tires spinning angrily in the gravel, but not before Chloe sat in the passenger seat of Ethan's car and recorded a tearful, devastated video for Facebook. She cried into the camera about how her cruel, greedy millionaire brother was aggressively gatekeeping the family estate and actively trying to ruin her wedding out of pure spite. By the time the sun went down, the post had gone completely viral within our extended family network. My phone practically melted from the notifications. I received dozens of furious text messages from aunts, uncles, and cousins calling me heartless, a sociopath, and a disgrace to Grandpa Arthur's legacy. Maya and I spent the rest of the weekend in absolute heavy silence. We patched the rotting wood on the dock, the rhythmic sound of the hammer the only thing keeping me sane. Later that night, I found myself standing in the living room, staring at a framed photo of Grandpa Arthur, quietly apologizing to him for the disgusting circus his beautiful sanctuary had become. I have officially in writing revoked my offer to host Chloe's wedding. I called a local security firm and spent $2,000 having high-end, motion sensor security cameras installed around the entire perimeter. I completely changed all the heavy deadbolt locks, because I discovered Chloe had secretly made unauthorized copies of the spare key years ago. My best friend, who is a corporate attorney, told me to start a physical binder, and document every single interaction, text, and threat, because people like this always escalate. The Fairness for Chloe group chat has become a war room. Cousins I haven't spoken to in a decade are writing paragraphs about my lack of morality. However, my dad, who divorced Brenda 10 years ago specifically because of her toxic narcissistic behavior, sent me a private text. It read, "I am so damn proud of you for standing your ground, son. Arthur would be too. Don't give them an inch." That text broke me. I sat on the floor of the bedroom and sobbed. I love my sister, but the person who stood in my living room demanding to tear down my grandfather's walls is a stranger. My mother has always been controlling, but this level of psychotic manipulation is entirely new territory. I am starting to realize I never actually knew the people I grew up with. Update 2 posted 2 months later. I genuinely never thought I would be back on this forum with another update. I thought the worst was behind me. I was wrong. The situation has mutated into a nightmare beyond anything my brain could have possibly comprehended. Grab a drink because this is going to be a very long, very dark ride. Following the overwhelming advice from Reddit and my attorney friend, I went extremely low contact with Brenda and Chloe. I didn't block their numbers. I needed to monitor their crazy, but I heavily restricted their access to all my social media and only responded to logistical emergencies. For about 3 blissful weeks, the silence was golden. I should have known the silence meant they were plotting. It started innocently enough with a thick, certified letter arriving at my office. It wasn't a lawsuit yet. It was a formal, aggressive legal request for binding mediation to resolve the unfair and fraudulent distribution of the Harrington estate. The letter, drafted by some strip mall lawyer, they found outlined a completely fabricated narrative. It claimed my grandfather was heavily medicated, suffering from severe cognitive decline, and that I exerted undue coercive influence over him. It demanded equal treatment for the grandchildren. I immediately forwarded the letter to the powerhouse estate attorney who originally handled Grandpa's will. He called me 10 minutes later. He actually laughed out loud on the phone. He told me it was the most pathetic, legally baseless fishing expedition he had seen in his 30-year career. He then proudly laid out the armor Grandpa had built for me. Grandpa's file didn't just have a will, it contained a comprehensive psychiatric medical evaluation conducted by an independent specialist exactly 48 hours before the will was signed, definitively legally confirming his total mental competency. It contained a high-definition video recording of Grandpa sitting in the office, looking straight into the camera, calmly and rationally explaining exactly why he was leaving the lake house to me and the cash to Chloe. It contained signed sworn affidavits from 2 independent witnesses, his primary doctor and his CPA, all confirming zero undue influence. My lawyer told me Brenda and Chloe were just rattling sabers, desperately hoping I would be terrified of public family drama and just hand over a massive settlement check to make them go away. He was right about the motive, but wrong about how far they would go. 2 days after I ignored the mediation letter, Chloe physically ambushed me at my commercial construction office. She showed up with Ethan and a brand new sleazy-looking lawyer, but it was Chloe's appearance that shocked me. She was wearing what I can only describe as a meticulously crafted sympathy costume. My sister, who refuses to check the mail without full contour makeup and designer clothes, showed up wearing no makeup, her hair deliberately messy and unwashed, wearing an oversized, wrinkled, faded sweater. She looked like she was auditioning for a Sarah McLachlan commercial. Her new lawyer handed me a thick, bound document. They weren't just asking for half the lake house value anymore. They had completely lost their minds. The document was an itemized list of psychotic demands. 150% of the newly appraised lake house value, $450,000. 2 emotional distress damages for being forcibly excluded from the family property, $100,000. 3 reimbursement for her suddenly ruined wedding venue deposits, and emergency venue changes, $60,000. 4 total coverage of Chloe's massive student loan debt, claiming I only avoided debt because I got the unfair educational advantage of working for Grandpa, $85,000. Total demand, $695,000. I stared at the paper. I looked at the lawyer. I looked at Chloe's fake tragic face and I burst out laughing. I couldn't stop. It was so absurd it became comedy. This was apparently the wrong response. Chloe immediately started hyperventilating, bursting into loud theatrical wails about how I was a sadist who enjoyed watching her starve. Ethan wrapped his arms around her, shooting me a glare of pure, unadulterated hatred. The lawyer leaned forward and used his slimy voice, "Mr. Harrington, this is an incredibly generous compromise offer to avoid a very long, very messy, very public trial that will destroy your business reputation." I stopped laughing. I stood up, opened my office door, and said, "Get out of my building before I have you all trespassed." Chloe's hyperventilating tears miraculously vanished in less than a second. Her face hardened into a mask of pure malice. She walked past me and hissed directly into my ear, "You're going to deeply regret this, Liam. Mom was right. You're a monster." The mask had fully slipped. That evening, I discovered exactly what her revenge looked like. Chloe had launched a GoFundMe campaign titled, "Help Me Fight for My Dying Grandfather's Stolen Legacy." The campaign description was an absolute masterclass in sociopathic manipulation. I have it memorized. It read, "My name is Chloe Harrington, and I am shattered to share my nightmare." When my beloved ailing grandfather passed away, my family made a horrifying discovery. In his final confused months, he supposedly left our family's historic generational lake house worth nearly $1 million solely to my older brother. This was a devastating shock, as Grandpa always promised the estate would be a shared sanctuary for our future children. I firmly believe my grandfather was heavily pressured and manipulated in his final vulnerable days. My brother, who controlled Grandpa's business, isolated him while I was away at college, pursuing the education Grandpa always dreamed I would get. Now, I am drowning in crippling student debt facing the cancellation of my wedding, while my brother hoards $1 million luxury estate. All I desperately want is fairness. I want to buy a modest home, pay off my education, and honor what I know in my soul were my grandfather's true dying wishes. Please help me raise funds for the legal fees to fight this elder abuse and secure justice for my family. She set the legal fee goal at $60,000. Within 48 hours, she had raised over $9,000. It was mostly from distant extended family members, old high school friends, and community members who only knew her manufactured cheerful side of the story. The comments on the donation page made me physically sick. Liam should be locked in a cage. Greedy, toxic men always try to violently push women out of generational wealth. Elder abuse is a horrific crime. I hope you put him in prison, Chloe. Your poor grandpa would be weeping in heaven seeing what his son did. Against my lawyer's strict advice, the sheer injustice of it made me snap. I created an account and posted a single highly detailed comment on the GoFundMe. Fact 1, the will is legally ironclad and supported by independent psychiatric medical evaluations proving full competency. Fact 2, Chloe received $60,000 in liquid cash and $35,000 in vintage valuables. Fact 3, I offered Chloe free unlimited use of the house and offered to pay for her wedding. Fact 4, the inheritance differences reflect the fact that I spent 10 years physically working for his company while Chloe visited twice a year. Stop scamming people. My comment was deleted by the campaign organizer Chloe in exactly 4 minutes, and she instantly blocked my IP address from commenting again. Then came the coordinated social media carpet bombing. Chloe started posting highly edited nostalgic throwback photos of her sitting on Grandpa's lap when she was 6 years old with captions like, "I miss your light every single day, Papa. I promise I won't let him destroy what you built." Noticeably, she couldn't post any photos from the last 10 years because she was literally never around to take any. Brenda mobilized her army of bored, middle-aged suburban friends. She started posting massive Facebook essays about the patriarchal sickness of inheritance inequality and how families protect male abusers. She created a hashtag #justice for Chloe. Local mommy bloggers and micro-influencers started sharing it. Then a regional online news outlet actually picked up the story. The headline read, "Local woman fights for fair inheritance after grandfather mysteriously leaves $1 million estate to brother." The journalist had only interviewed Chloe and Brenda. When I frantically called the publication to provide the medical records and the actual truth, the editor coldly told me they were focusing on the human interest narrative of women fighting systemic inheritance disenfranchisement. They completely omitted the fact that Chloe had inherited $95,000 in cash and assets. The real-world pressure became suffocating. My commercial construction company's Google and Yelp pages were suddenly review-bombed with hundreds of fake one-star reviews calling me a thief, a misogynist, and an elder abuser. But the line they crossed that meant total war was when they targeted Maya. Maya works as a pediatric nurse at a massive city hospital. Last Wednesday, someone we suspect Brenda walked into the hospital and left 50 printed flyers of Chloe's GoFundMe page scattered across the nurses' break room tables, the cafeteria, and taped to bathroom mirrors. Scrolled across the top in thick red marker were the words, "Is this the monster your coworker, Maya, is married to Maya, called me from a supply closet sobbing." Several of her coworkers had started treating her with cold suspicion. One senior nurse actually pulled her aside and asked completely seriously if Maya felt guilty wearing scrubs while living off stolen elder money. That Friday, desperately needing an escape from the psychological torture, Maya and I drove up to the main lake house. As we turned onto the dirt road leading to our driveway, my headlights illuminated something that made my blood freeze. Stabbed deep into the front lawn was a massive professional real estate for sale sign. I slammed the truck into park and sprinted toward the house. There was a strange SUV. I unlocked the front door to find a local real estate agent standing in my kitchen showing the property to a wealthy-looking older couple. "What the hell are you doing in my house?" I roared. The agent looked terrified. "Excuse me, I'm showing the property." The owner, Chloe Harrington, signed an agreement with my brokerage yesterday to aggressively fast-track the sale. Chloe had forged my grandfather's old stationery, pretended the house was still in probate, and authorized a listing. I had to pull up the county tax records on my phone, show my physical ID, and explicitly threaten the agent with a lawsuit for breaking and entering before they finally scrambled out the door. That night, Maya and I sat on the edge of the wooden dock, our feet dangling over the black water. I was shaking with pure, unadulterated rage. I realized I couldn't just defend myself anymore. I had to utterly destroy their narrative. I went up to the attic to search for old property blueprints. Instead, I found a dusty, heavy cardboard box tucked behind the insulation. Inside were Grandpa Arthur's journals. He had kept meticulous daily diaries for 40 years. I sat on the floor with a flashlight and began reading. The entries regarding Chloe weren't just sad. They were a damning chronological record of her lifelong selfishness. I digitized every single page. The 14th of August 2018, Chloe's 21st birthday today. Sent her a card and a $1,000 check. She cashed it by 2 p.m. No phone call to say thank you. Beginning to think she only sees me as an ATM. The 4th of July 2020. Invited Chloe up to the lake for the weekend. Told her I wasn't feeling well and would love the company. She texted saying she was too busy with summer classes. An hour later, Liam showed me her Instagram. She's at a massive beach house party in the Hamptons drinking champagne. My heart hurts. The 12th of October 2021. Chloe called crying, said she couldn't afford her textbooks and might fail. Wire transferred her $800. 2 days later, Brenda bragged to me that Chloe just bought a new $1,200 Prada bag. I am done enabling this. To the 3rd of March 2023, 2 months before he died. Met with the estate lawyer today, finalized the will. The lawyer asked if I was sure about limiting Chloe to cash. I am. She doesn't love the lake house. She loves what she can sell it for. The lake must go to someone who sees it as a home, not a bank account. Liam has earned this 10 times over. That final entry was dated during the exact window Brenda publicly claimed he was suffering from extreme dementia. I am meeting with my ruthless new litigation attorney tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. I am completely done trying to preserve a relationship with vampires who only see dollar signs where memory should be. Grandpa didn't just leave me a piece of real estate. He left me a sanctuary, a reminder of what actual unconditional family looks like. Brenda and Chloe made their choice. They chose greed over family, lies over truth, and manipulation over love. I will update this post one last time after the legal nuclear bomb drops. Final update posted 4 months after the last. This will be my absolute final update. I have hesitated for weeks to write this because hitting post means fully accepting that the family I grew up with is permanently, irreparably dead, but I owe closure to the thousands of you who followed this nightmare. And honestly, I need to write this to purge the last of the poison from my system. The day after my last post, my litigation attorney and I went on the offensive. We drafted a massive, terrifyingly comprehensive cease and desist letter and had it served simultaneously to both Chloe and Brenda via process servers at their respective homes. The legal document exhaustively detailed their crimes. 1. Severe defamation of character. 2. Tortious interference with my business, the fake reviews. 3. Wire fraud, the GoFundMe campaign built on verifiable lies. 4. Attempted real estate fraud, the fake listing. 5. Intentional infliction of emotional distress, the hospital harassment of Maya. We demanded the absolute immediate cessation of all defamatory social media posts, a complete takedown of the GoFundMe with mandatory refunds issued to every single donor, a public written retraction of their false claims, and zero further contact with my wife or me outside of formal legal channels. Chloe's response came exactly 48 hours later. She didn't hire a lawyer, she didn't back down. Instead, she set up her ring light, sat on the floor of her expensive apartment surrounded by crumpled tissues, and went live on Facebook. She sobbed hysterically to her thousands of viewers about how her abusive millionaire corporate contractor brother was now using his massive wealth to legally terrorize and silence her. She literally compared herself to David fighting Goliath. She claimed I was weaponizing the legal system to oppress a struggling artist. The live video exploded. It went viral across our entire state. The hashtag #StandWithChloe trended locally. Local news stations ran B-roll footage of my construction company's logo while talking about corporate bullying. The actual truth didn't matter to the public anymore. The tragic underdog narrative was too juicy to ignore. What Chloe, in her infinite narcissism, failed to realize was that by taking the fight completely public and continuing to defame me after a legal warning, she made every single piece of private evidence fair game. My lawyer had explicitly warned them. They called our bluff. We didn't bluff. Within 24 hours, my attorney and I launched a beautifully designed SEO-optimized public website titled thetruthAboutTheHarringtonState.com. We didn't use hyperbole. We just posted raw, undeniable data. We posted the full, unredacted will, including Grandpa's deeply emotional letter. We posted the certified medical competency evaluation signed by 2 doctors. We embedded the high-definition video of Grandpa Arthur calmly and articulately explaining exactly why Chloe was only getting cash because she treats family like a bank. We posted high-res scans of Grandpa's private journals, highlighting the exact dates Chloe lied to him to extract money while partying. We posted the official probate accounting showing Chloe had already received $95,000 in liquid assets. We posted a brutal side-by-side collage. Screenshots of Chloe's GoFundMe claiming she was starving and drowning in debt, placed right next to screenshots from her public Instagram showing her buying designer bags, eating at Michelin star restaurants, and taking luxury vacations during that exact same time frame. We posted the undeniable proof from the financial discovery process that 40% of her crippling student loan debt was actually just maxed out credit cards from high-end retail shopping sprees. But the absolute kill shot, the piece of evidence that ended her entire life, was a series of text messages we legally obtained via subpoena during the initial discovery phase of her threatened lawsuit. It was a text thread between Chloe and her best friend sent the night after she ambushed my office. Chloe wrote, "Once I get Liam to legally crack under the public pressure, I'm buying that penthouse condo in Back Bay. Mom says if we just keep making his wife's life a living hell at the hospital, he'll pay us the $700,000 just to make it go away." Her friend replied, "Is the GoFundMe? Me actually working," Chloe responded. "It's genius. I've already pulled in $12,000 from these gullible idiots. Even if we don't win the legal lawsuit, I'll have enough cash for a new Mercedes down payment." These morons actually believe I gave Ash Times to about the old man or that dusty mosquito-infested lake house. We blasted the link to the website to every single family member, every donor on the GoFundMe, every local news outlet, and every person who had left a fake review on my business page. The backlash was apocalyptic. The GoFundMe trust and safety team immediately launched a fraud investigation, permanently banned Chloe's IP address, and forcibly refunded over $18,000 to the donors. Several extended family members who had donated called me weeping and apologizing, saying they had been completely blinded by her manipulative tears. But Brenda, completely divorced from reality, doubled down. She officially filed the lawsuit contesting the will, citing undue influence and lack of testamentary capacity. She hired an outrageously expensive, aggressive trial lawyer on contingency, completely convinced her maternal outrage would sway a judge. The probate trial happened last month. It lasted exactly 3 days. Brenda's lawyer stood up and tried to paint me as a calculating sociopathic mastermind who had imprisoned a dying man in his own home. They actually paid a medical expert psychologist who had literally never met or examined my grandfather to testify about theoretical invisible cognitive decline. They put Chloe on the stand to weep about being a loving granddaughter denied her birthright. Our defense was a surgical strike of pure facts. Grandpa's actual treating physician testified under oath about his razor-sharp mental acuity. His CPA testified about how Grandpa thoroughly analyzed the tax implications of the will. And then we played the video of Grandpa Arthur in the courtroom. The entire courtroom sat in dead silence as my grandfather's booming, steady voice echoed off the walls. "I am leaving the main property to Liam because he is the only one who understands what I built there. It is not about the money. It is about the wood, the sweat, the memories, the traditions." Chloe is a lovely girl, but she only sees things through the lens of dollar signs. The cash will serve her lifestyle better. I pray she uses it wisely. The judge, an older, no-nonsense woman, looked absolutely disgusted with my mother and sister. Her ruling from the bench was swift and merciless. Not only did she formally uphold the will in its entirety, completely dismissing their claims with prejudice, but she invoked a rare legal sanction. She ordered Brenda and Chloe to pay 100% of my exorbitant legal fees, stating on the record that their lawsuit was a frivolous, cynical, and malicious attempt to override the crystal-clear wishes of the deceased for pure financial gain. The aftermath of the gavel dropping was absolute carnage. Brenda sent me one final venomous email. It read, "You may have won a piece of paper legally, but you have destroyed your family. I hope that rotting wooden house was worth losing your mother and sister forever. You are dead to me. Do not ever contact us again." Chloe, incapable of self-reflection, posted a final Instagram story featuring a selfie of her looking stoic. The caption, "Sometimes you have to learn the hard way who people truly are when money is involved. Cutting out toxic, abusive family members and stepping into my healing era." The sheer blinding irony was almost physically painful, but here is where the story takes its final, most devastating turn. About 2 weeks after the trial ended, I received an unexpected phone call from Ethan, Chloe's fiancé. His voice sounded hollow like a ghost. He asked to meet me privately for a beer at a dive bar across town. When I sat down, he looked at me with bloodshot eyes and said, "I ended the engagement. I moved out." I was stunned. "What happened?" Ethan took a long pull of his beer. "I couldn't marry a sociopath, Liam. When she was crying in your office that day, hyperventilating and sobbing, I found out she had spent an hour practicing that exact crying routine in our bathroom mirror that morning. The whole thing was a calculated performance. The website you put up the text to her friend. I thought I knew the woman I was sleeping next to, but the person I watched during this lawsuit wasn't a human being. It was a shark." He then revealed the most pathetic detail of all. Chloe had already completely blown through her entire legitimate inheritance. The $60,000 cash gone in less than 6 months. She used it to lease a $90,000 luxury Range Rover she couldn't afford, bought a closet full of designer clothes, and booked a 3-week spiritual healing retreat in Bali that cost $15,000. The $35,000 vintage watch collection, she was too lazy to get them properly appraised by a horologist, so she pawned them to a strip mall jeweler for less than $12,000 to pay off a single credit card. She kept telling me, "Once we finally get Liam's lake house money, we can buy the perfect life," Ethan said, shaking his head. But I finally realized, even if you gave her $1 million, it would be gone in a year. There would always be another thing she deserved, another person who owed her something. Just last week, my office received a certified letter forwarded from Chloe's last known apartment address. It was from an aggressive debt collection agency. Chloe had recently applied for a massive personal loan and listed me as a business partner and guarantor, claiming we had joint commercial ventures. The debt collector was demanding information on my assets. I had my lawyer immediately fire off a cease and desist and flag her for identity fraud. Through the family grapevine, I've learned that Chloe was formally evicted from her luxury apartment because she couldn't make rent without Ethan's income. She is currently living in Brenda's guest bedroom. She is actively telling anyone who will listen that she is writing a memoir about inheritance trauma and narcissistic sibling abuse. She has also started a brand new GoFundMe to fund her independent art therapy practice. She possesses absolutely zero medical or therapeutic certifications. She is also allegedly engaged again, this time to a guy she met at a bar 3 months ago who truly understands her spiritual struggle. Brenda has spent the last month trying to convince the remaining extended family that I am a monster who illegally forged the medical documents to steal from a helpless woman. Some of the older, gullible relatives believe her. Most of them saw the website and have blocked her number. I have completely stopped caring. The poison is out of my life. This past weekend, Maya and I drove up to the lake house. We didn't have to look over our shoulders. We didn't have to check the security cameras. We just existed. We have officially finished all the necessary repairs. The dock is completely rebuilt with fresh treated cedar. The kitchen has been beautifully updated but properly maintaining the rustic historic charm that Grandpa Arthur loved, not the sterile modern monstrosity Chloe's wedding planner had aggressively envisioned. And as we sat on the end of the dock watching the orange sun dip below the pristine tree line, Maya leaned her head on my shoulder and told me she is officially 12 weeks pregnant. We are having a little boy. We are going to name him Arthur. As I sat there listening to the water lap against the wood, I thought about what this horrific, agonizing experience has fundamentally taught me. One, people will immediately show you exactly who they are the second a dollar sign is introduced. The prospect of unearned wealth didn't change Chloe and Brenda. It simply removed their masks and exposed the rotting entitlement underneath. Two family is absolutely not defined by shared genetics. My real family is Maya. My real family is my unborn son, Arthur. My real family is my dad, who stood by my side when the world called me a villain. And my real family is the memory of a grandfather who saw me more clearly than I saw myself. 3. You must fiercely honor the explicit wishes of those who have passed. Grandpa Arthur knew exactly what he was doing. He saw the greed I was too willfully blind to acknowledge. He gave me the armor to survive it. 4. Document every single thing. The journals, the medical records, the video, the text messages, they were the only things that saved my reputation, my business, and my sanity from a coordinated smear campaign that almost successfully rewrote reality. 5. Sometimes brutally losing your biological family is the only way to gain your actual freedom. I spent a long time mourning the mother and sister I thought I had until I finally realized I was mourning an illusion. To anyone out there who is currently facing a similar nightmare, stand your ground. Do not let toxic emotional manipulation or the threat of ruining the family override legal documents and the dying wishes of someone who loved you. A person who truly, genuinely loves you will never try to aggressively steal what was freely given to you by someone else. Grandpa's lake house is infinitely more than a piece of taxable real estate. It is a physical testament to a man who valued deep character over shared blood, relentless effort over lazy entitlement, and hard truth over comfortable manipulation. Every single time I cast a fishing line off the end of the cedar dock that we built together, I look up at the sky and thank him. I thank him for seeing the truth when I couldn't. Brenda and Chloe made their beds. They chose the absolute worst parts of human nature: greed, lies, and theft. Now they have to live in the miserable, broke, lonely reality they created for themselves. I have chosen peace. I have chosen truth. And I am choosing to carry forward the legacy of a man who understood that family isn't about blindly splitting everything 50/50. It's about giving what is right to those who have actually earned it through love, time, and genuine connection. This lake house is no longer just my inheritance. My true inheritance is the absolute unshakable knowledge that I stood up for what was right, even when it cost me every single person I thought I loved. Thank you, Reddit, for giving me the strength to fight when my own family tried to break me. I won't be updating this account ever again. It is finally time to stop looking in the rearview mirror and start building the beautiful, quiet future Grandpa Arthur envisioned when he handed me those keys. To Grandpa, I kept my promise, old man. The lake house remains with someone who sees its true bleeding value. Your legacy lives on, not just in the timber and stone, but in the harsh lessons you taught me and the man you forced me to become. Until we meet again at that great quiet lake in the sky-tight lines and following seas.